is Tsingy de Barramara. Located on the very western edge of Madagascar, an island off the coast of southern Africa, this national park is centered around two large geographical features called Great Tsingy and Little Tsingy. These rock formations are plateaus, which have had deep ruts cut into them by the groundwater to the point of making them completely unable to be traveled or walked upon. The word Tsingy, when translated, even means where one cannot walk barefoot, making it the perfect name for this incredibly unique area of the world. Because of the vast area in which these formations are located, the park was made unexplorable simply because of the fact that it is impossible to cross over the jagged plateaus. And let me just say, I wouldn't even want to try to walk through there. Number 9. Mars. Humans have always dreamed about going and creating life on Mars, and they're trying to make that a reality. Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, has long predicted that humans will land on Mars by 2029, but there are some huge challenges when trying to do that. The biggest challenge to go to Mars is the time duration to go there and come back. The window for launch to Mars from Earth only happens approximately every 2 years and 2 months. This means astronauts leaving in 2024 wouldn't be able to get help before 2026 when the next launch window opens and help gets there after the 9-month journey. Now the other hard part of going to Mars is the landing. Under Elon's plan, your spaceship would be approaching Mars at 62,000 miles per hour. As it descends into the atmosphere, the ship would then use supersonic retropropulsion, aka lots of little rockets firing at once, in order to land on the surface of Mars. Now this landing maneuver is risky because Mars's atmosphere is so much thinner than Earth's, so there's less friction to slow you down. NASA has struggled to land even small robots on the surface. The system used to decelerate and then parachute the Curiosity rover on Mars was mind-boggling, and Curiosity only weighed 1 ton, and Elon is envisioning 450 tons. Plenty could go wrong, like an explosion. Now it's also said that Mars wouldn't be an ideal place to live as there's radiation exposure, there's low sources of energy, and we can't grow food there, and so much more. Will we ever make it to Mars? Who knows, but we sure won't be living there anytime soon. Number 8. North Sentinel Island. This small island lies in the Bay of Bengal between the southern coasts of India and Thailand, making it extremely remote. Its inhabitants, called the Sentinelese people, are the only human beings who have ever lived on the island and have long since refused to accept modern visitors. Anyone who comes to the island to try and explore or study the area is immediately rejected, oftentimes with violence. The Sentinelese tribe have existed on the island for more than 50,000 years as per the protection given by the Indian government. The island is forbidden for any visitors of any kind. Now throughout history, encounters with the population have been met with violence, as in 2006 the tribe ended the lives of 2 fishermen whose boat had been dragged by the current on their shores. Then in 2018, John Allen Cho, who is reported to be a Christian preacher and a US citizen, was shot dead by them after he illegally entered the prohibited area with the help of local fishermen. Now according to The Guardian, a 3-mile restriction zone prevents visitors from entering the territory. Due to all this, the Indian government has abandoned any plans to contact the Sentinels. The entire tribe could be wiped out by diseases to which they have no immunity, which is why authorities respect their wish to remain uncontacted. Because of this, the island exists completely out of touch with the rest of the modern world, and it's basically completely unexplored.
Number 7. The Georgia Guidestones. Nothing like a giant monument paid by a guy who wants to start a new religion. The Georgia Guidestones are in Elbert County, Georgia, and they're there not to guide you physically, but spiritually. They were thrown up in 1979 and paid for by R.C. Christian, who there is still very little known about to this day. He wanted to erect a giant monument to people with 10 new commandments. New commandments with judo chop action. Some of these new commandments I could get behind. I mean, there's nothing about how you shouldn't bang your neighbor's wife, but maybe back in 1979 he didn't put it up there because it was just something that everyone knew you weren't supposed to do. But some of them are like balance personal rights and social duties, and avoid petty laws and useless officials. But the first commandment is maintain humanity under 500 million in order to have perpetual balance with nature. I'm sorry dude, but we already threw that one out the window. If all you need to start a new religion is some commandments, I'll kick off some right now. Some commandments for the Church of Cheng, like be chill, stay hot, put cheese on it, let's dance, take a nap, backflips are dope, free gym memberships, get wrecked, hit the beach, and Blade 2 was underrated. Number 6. The Coral Castle. This one is absolutely bonkers. It's a giant castle made out of limestone that was apparently all built by one man. The castle was built between the years of 1923 and 1951 and is a few miles south of Miami. Some of the slabs that were used to build this mega house were said to have been even heavier than some of the cubes that put the pyramids together. The place was thrown together by a Latvian immigrant named Edward Leedskalini. This dude must have like a 9,000 pound deadlift. He could probably power clean a Jeep Wrangler. However, this Latvian powerhouse said he didn't move the stones by hand, but he had found the secrets to the pyramids. There are even reports of him levitating stones that no man could move. The craziest part about this is he built the castle as a tribute to his fiancée who left them on his wedding day. I guess after a breakup you have two options: move on and start a new life, or never get over it and get superpowers. Number 5. Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, the name alone shows that you probably shouldn't go there. Like, where do you want to go? Disneyland? Or Skinwalker Ranch? Yeah, I'm gonna choose the one that sounds like it's named after the guy who would make cowboy boots out of campers. Well, Skinwalker Ranch is known for having a ton of supernatural things go down there, from alien sightings to strange lights appearing and disappearing out of nowhere. The place gets its name from a Native American myth of the Skinwalkers, who were people who could transform into any animal. Native Americans have also said that the area is cursed with a dark energy. I honestly think I would be fine there. I think if a skinwalker tried to take my identity, I would just show him how many parking tickets I owe. Number 4. Sadova Sanctuary, Trout Lake. Do you like aliens? Well, you better head down to Sadova Sanctuary, as it's been a hotbed for UFO activity for nearly 50 years. If you want E.T. to come down and touch you with that weird little glowy finger, then this is the place for you. It's literally a UFO retreat run by James Gilliland, who is a UFO fanatic. He's founded 2 different operations dedicated to learning more about aliens, and he's been letting people come up to check out the cool alien view since 1986. Almost everyone who goes up there has some sort of encounter with an alien, whether it's strange lights flying through the sky or actual alien crafts in perfect sight, or a soft kiss from a Klingon. Everyone who goes up comes home with some sort of story to tell. Number 3. Earthwork in Newark, Ohio. It's super old, it used to be massive, and it's definitely a mystery. The Newark earthwork is very strange, as many people don't even know what it was used for. Some people believe that ancient Native American tribes could have used it as burial sites or as a church, while some people think that the area was cleared out so they could better map out the stars. This spot is also super old. Some of the older parts are dating back as far as 100 BC. It was also massive. It stretched over 4 square miles. Sadly, encroaching development has destroyed most of it, but there are still a few major structures that stand. I guess if you want to look at the stars now in Newark, you're probably better off Googling them. Number 2. Mel's Hole, Manastash, Washington. I would hate to work at this place. All day, you would just hear the same dumb jokes over and over again. How big is Mel's Hole? How deep is Mel's Hole? How many people have come from Mel's Hole? How many people have been inside Mel's Hole? Has anyone ever got lost inside Mel's Hole? Are my hopes and dreams inside Mel's Hole? Well, all the hack jokes aside, this thing is pretty crazy. It's a 9-foot wide bottomless pit. People have tried to reach the bottom in all sorts of ways to no avail. It's even said that the hole has some sort of supernatural power, that if you were to throw a dead animal into it, that it would come back alive. There was one report from the 17th century of a family throwing their deceased dog into the pit, and the dog later walked out of the forest completely rejuvenated. How am I just learning about this now? Someone dig up Harambe, we got a gorilla to save. Number 1 on the list is Champy. The Loch Ness Monster thought he was the only creepy dragon creature wandering around open water, but it looks like we've got our own that's made its home in Lake Champlain, which is situated in the French-Canadian province of Quebec. That's right, North America has his own version of Loch Ness, and he even speaks French, which means he's sexier. Champy got his name from the lake he makes his home in, and like most creatures of his ilk, there is no hard evidence to support the creature's existence. However, there have been several sightings. Over 300 actually. That's more sightings than the rest of NSYNC since Justin Timberlake left. The Iroquois and Abenaki are two Native American tribes from the area, and they both have legends of some sort of snake-like creature living in the lake. I'm gonna have to go out on a limb and say Champy is real.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Pine Gap. Pine Gap is a highly secretive Australian intelligence facility located in the remote desert of the Northern Territory, approximately 20 kilometers southwest of Alice Springs. The facility is jointly operated by the Australian government and the United States government's Central Intelligence Agency, better known as the CIA. It is believed that Pine Gap is primarily used for the interception of signals intelligence, including satellite imagery and communications from various locations around the world, but at this point in time, no one is really sure. That is because Pine Gap has long been shrouded in secrecy, and its operations have been the subject of much speculation and controversy. There have been allegations of illegal activities taking place at the facility, including surveillance of Australian citizens and involvement in controversial US military operations. Despite this, the Australian and US governments have consistently denied any wrongdoings, and little is known about the true nature of the activities taking place at Pine Gap. The facility remains one of the most mysterious and secretive military installations in the world. Number 9. Door to Hell. Yep, you heard that right. Door to Hell. Many people believe this giant crater in Turkmenistan is a gateway to hell, and I can't say that I really disagree. It's essentially a 230-foot wide pit with glowing red flames and is surrounded by miles of sand. It's said that this place is a natural gas field that collapsed in 1971. To contain the spread of the methane gas, geologists set it on fire, and it has been continuously burning ever since. Now, many cultures and philosophies around the world believe in the existence of the underworld, and while there are many places believed to be gateways to the underworld, the door to hell might just be the closest resemblance to this place. To this day, the crater is still burning, and no one really knows why. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Yamantau Mountain Complex. The Yamantau Mountain Complex is a highly secretive and heavily guarded underground facility located in the Ural Mountains of Russia. Its purpose and functions are shrouded in mystery, and the Russian government has actually never officially acknowledged its existence. It is believed to have been built during the Cold War as a nuclear weapons storage facility and command center. There is an above-ground town called Mezgor, and that town is super secret and off limits, so much so that people aren't even allowed within the vicinity, and this is all thought to be because this town might be holding the complex underneath it. The underground complex is said to cover an area of over 400 square miles with many tunnels and underground facilities. Its exact purpose and current use remain unknown, with various theories and speculations ranging from a bunker for the Russian government and military leaders to a storage facility for advanced weapons and technology. Some have even speculated that it could be used as a launch site for missiles or a secret laboratory for biological weapons research. Despite many attempts by outsiders to uncover the truth about the Yamantau Mountain Complex, the Russian government has remained tight-lipped and maintains strict security measures around the area.
Number 7. Stranahan House. You don't want to be stranded at the Stranahan House. It's gonna be bad news. Fort Lauderdale has a few haunted hidden gems, and the oldest house just happens to be the most haunted. What do you know? What odds are that? What odds are that? What are those odds? There we go. The house's OG owner was Frank Stranahan, and today, if you visit ye old stomping grounds, well, you might catch Frank in a photo or two. It's said that Frank still oversees the place, and he regularly shows up in guests' photos. So this ghost likes to photobomb. That's pretty amazing. I kind of like that. I suppose being trapped in the same house for all of eternity probably gets a little boring from time to time. Just to pop into a photo, throw some peace signs up, and then disappear back into the walls. Ivy Stranahan, Frank's late wife, she also has made an appearance or two. Nice. True love is haunting the same house forever. Guests have felt a cold hand on their shoulder, and her perfume still lingers in the hallway. Must have been some good strong stuff. Nice. Now, it's not all fun and games. Augustus Stranahan, aka Frank's father, well, his ghost likes to throw books. It's really aggressive, so heads up for that, I guess, if you go. Cheers. Number 6, the Plaza Resort and Spa. Ah yes, kick back and relax with Ghosts. It's just what you want. You're never alone, I guess. That's a plus side. The Plaza Resort and Spa sounds like a relaxing getaway until you start looking up footage of the actual resort. One's gonna get your attention for sure. Back in August 2013, security cameras captured late night footage of this shape-shifting ghost, some sort of spirit, some scary blob. It's bad news, really, in any regard. What happened was the original building was destroyed by fire in 1909, and current staff will testify that they've seen the ghosts of victims caught in that blaze. How they know? I have no idea, but apparently they do know. It's a lot of details for one ghost appearance. One of the most common sightings includes a woman whose spirit is known to mess with the elevators and make items in the kitchen disappear. Okay, really? That last one's for sure an employee stealing food. He's like, oh yeah, I don't know. I think a ghost ate that cheesecake, boss. I don't know, spooky stuff, spooky. Number 5, the Blue Anchor Pub. Another bar, another haunted bill to pay. Here we go, debit or credit. Heading over to Delray Beach, the Blue Anchor Pub was built in 1840s in London, but the wooden interior was sent to New York City and then later on sent to Florida in 1996. So yeah, these spirits must be confused. They go from Jack the Ripper to some dude wearing a Yankees hat talking to a TV. Trapped in the wooden interior is the ghost of one Bertha Starkey, who was sadly killed by her husband back in the 1840s. Now, you know Bertha is lurking about when you hear rattling pots in the kitchen, and sometimes if you're really unlucky, you'll hear wailing in the middle of the night. Nice. Again, horrible sleep at this place. The Blue Anchor sounds like a really relaxing time, but every night at 10 o'clock, the current owners will blast a ship horn to scare away her spirit. I don't know, I feel like blaring a ship horn at 10 p.m. is more jarring than some pots and pans moving sometimes. You know what I mean? I'd rather hear the pots and pans than in the middle of the night. No way. Number 4, the Biltmore Hotel. Another hotel to avoid at all costs. Awesome, we love these ones. First of all, do you actually like staying at a hotel? Some people love it. Some people find it super relaxing. I can't help but think about what went on in the bed before me. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, why does this part of the bed feel a little bit caved in? What's going on here? Every time I'm in a hotel, I have the worst dreams and I can't sleep at all. The Biltmore Hotel in the city of Coral Gables is also one of the most haunted hotels in Florida. You've probably heard of this at some point. It all started in 1926 during initial construction. The Biltmore witnessed a foul killing on the 13th floor. The 13th floor of all floors, my God. The Biltmore was also turned into a military hotel during World War II before ultimately being closed and then abandoned later in 1968. Now, the city renovated the hotel later on in the 80s, but it didn't take long for ghost stories to start to spread. It's horrible, horrible past, I mean, more than fair. Now, of course, the most activity is on the 13th floor, so if you do check this one out, really double down, go to the haunted floor, you know, don't just look outside and then book. Go in, stay a night. I can't believe some buildings don't have a 13th floor. Can you imagine that? Well, they do, but everyone pretends that they don't. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, it's 12. I don't know, we'll see. Are you a 13th floor believer? Comment down below. Me personally, I don't think so, because it's the 14th or the 12th. Or the 13th, I don't know anymore. No one knows anymore. It goes 11, 12, 14. You're like, really? What's the 14s? We know what's going on here, come on. Number 3, Tampa Theater. If you're a fellow theater kid, you're also gonna love this one. Here we go. Tampa Theater opened up in 1926. The theater is now said, of course, to be haunted by a woman that was struck and killed by a carriage on the property. Imagine being hit by a carriage, it's so slow. This was actually before the theater was built, so her spirit has been there for a while. If you go to Tampa Theater today, you might catch a glimpse of that woman in a white gown walking across the mezzanine hallway. This time without carriages whipping through, hopefully, sans carriage. Imagine telling somebody in front of you to sit down during a show, then they just disappear. You're like, I think that was a ghost. I think that was probably a ghost. It says in the playbill, ghost, so maybe that was her. Tampa Theater, of course, has leaned into these claims. Now they offer Ghosts of Tampa Theater Tour, where guests can learn about its haunted history. I'd love to do this tour. I don't know, maybe I'll go to Florida. Who knows? I won't. I'm like, I'm probably not going to. Number 2, Key West Cemetery. A cemetery that's haunted. Get out of town. You don't say. The Beachside Cemetery was built in 1847. Now, it was built specifically for victims of a hurricane that occurred a year prior in 1846. That's terrible. Now, the cemetery is the final resting place for roughly 80,000 to 100,000 people. So yeah, I can only assume there's a ghost or two hanging out. That's extremely tragic. Walking through a graveyard at night is scary enough anytime, but Key West Cemetery is so specific that the entire time you're walking through, you feel connected in a way. Now, me personally, I'm all set. I don't want to feel connected to an 1846 tragedy. I'm all set. I'll go the long way around the cemetery, then I'll meet you on the other side, if anything. But if you're into this kind of thing, they also offer ghost tours, so knock yourself out. There you go. Apparently it's too scary for children, so that's a plus. Lines will be a little shorter than usual. And finally, number 1, St. Augustine Lighthouse. A scary lighthouse? How? How is that possible? The St. Augustine Lighthouse is located, of course, in Florida and was built between 1871 and 1874. And it's considered Florida's first official lighthouse ever. Imagine that. Boom, let there be light. Hey, I made you a lighthouse. Enjoy, we're all good now. There have been several tragic events over the following years, seeing as it's the first lighthouse ever. Seen a lot of history. But even during initial construction, there were several freak accidents on site. Today, said spirits are still lurking about. Sightings of shadowy figures are common, but just one time, somebody saw a hand coming through the tower door. Yeah, a floaty hand, like from Idle Hands. How terrifying is that? Can you imagine just a Smash Bros hand just lurking near you? Several guests have reported furniture also moving around on its own, which is definitely a hazard. And one person even said that they had some of their arm hairs plucked off of them while they were in the basement. Probably that floaty weird hand just doink. Give me one of those. Another guest felt someone grab their ankle at one point while walking down a hallway, which actually caused them to trip and fall down, so something's going on. I don't know what this ghost hand wants, but it's pretty chaotic to me, it seems. I think the ghost hand wants you to click like if you like this video. I think that's what it wants.
At number 10 is the Gavea Hippodrome. The Gavea Hippodrome in Brazil is famous for being seriously spooky. Back when they built it in the early 1900s, workers faced strange shadows and accidents during construction, leading some to believe that angry ghosts were disturbed from their resting place. The eerie occurrences continued even after construction ended. Shadows lurked around, workers mysteriously fell, and machines broke for no apparent reason. Some folks reckon that angry ghosts were mad about the construction on their resting spot. Even today, it's still creepy. People visiting or working there say they've seen ghostly figures in jockey outfits. But get this, it's not just a haunted spot, it's also where horse betting happens. Surprisingly, it's the only legitimately legal place for gambling in Brazil. So, while ghosts might be around, luck might just be on your side when you're betting at this place. At number 9 is Minas Gerais Cambucria, the Grand Hotel. I totally butchered that. It's got quite a spooky reputation. Room number 204 there is like the epicenter of all the creepy stuff. People who stayed there talk about feeling an eerie cold, hearing knocks on the door with no one around, and even seeing things that don't quite add up. I mean, it's not just 1 or 2 stories, there are multiple accounts of these strange happenings. Visitors have reported seeing things they can't explain, hearing noises that don't make sense, and feeling a weird vibe all around that place. The Grande Hotel seems to have this mysterious aura that makes people think twice about staying there. It's like something out of the horror movies, but hey, if you're into that kind of spooky stuff, maybe it's a place worth checking out if you dare. If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support this channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing the notification bell, all of which is free. At number 8 is the Jolma Building. The Jolma Building in Brazil is known for being seriously spooky. Back in 1975, a huge fire tore through this 25-story building in just under 20 minutes because of an electrical problem. It was tragic. Over 486 people had lost their lives in the fire. Even after it was rebuilt and renamed Praça de Bandeira, eerie things just kept happening. People say they've spotted ghosts wandering around the halls and rooms, but what's even creepier is the story about the 13 souls who got stuck in the elevator during the fire. Some believe that these spirits are still hanging around, adding to the haunted vibe of the place. If you're someone who gets scared easily, this might not be the best spot for a visit. The history and the story surrounding this building are enough to make your hair stand on end.
Number 7, a parking lot. A dream that comes up for a lot of people is dreaming that you're in a parking lot at night. It's dark and cold, and there are either no cars or only a couple, and I'm not sure which is worse. Usually, you can't make out if you're in a parking lot in front of a store or just out in the middle of nowhere. Dreaming about this means that you're having a problem accepting an aspect of your own character. Somebody may be pretending to be somebody they are not and are hiding under a facade and is a harbinger for someone who is mysterious. An example is, I exited a building at nighttime and I was in their parking lot. There were maybe 1 or 2 cars there, no one was around, and it made me feel weird. I kept looking around because I felt like someone was watching me and I couldn't shake the feeling. Number 6, an empty hospital. Everyone has had those empty hospital dreams, right? It's dark, the lights are flickering, and most importantly, you're alone. The dream of seeing a deserted and empty hospital has a more personal meaning though. It can mean that you have to stop putting all your hopes into others and pursue your desires. Your goal is usually only about yourself, so you are often the only one who is interested in achieving it. So you have to take the initiative and fight for what you want. An example is, I've been having dreams of different rooms inside an abandoned asylum I've never been to. I dream of different people in there. Sometimes they're chasing after me, sometimes they're lovely and we talk. One time I was in the World War hiding from invading soldiers and they wanted to make me fight for their side. Another time it was me and my 2 friends I used to live with running towards this huge tree as a swarm of people were trying to get us. Number 5, an abandoned food court / mall. Many people dream about an abandoned food court and mall. It's usually somewhat familiar, like that old mall in your hometown that shut down. It's dark, dingy, and there's an eeriness to it. The floor is filled with pale colored tiles and there's abandoned tables and chairs. Dreaming of this represents the dreamer's feelings of being unwanted or unloved. It may be due to lack of control in your own lives, which reenacts what it would feel like to lose or leave the surrounding things, signifies sadness or depression. Shopping often has to do with making choices, and it's associated with decisions and preferences. An example of this dream is I was on a date in a mall that I've known all my life, but it looked very different in the dream. We were talking and having a good time, but the thing was the mall was completely empty and there were no people in it at all. At one point in the dream, we went to an arcade that I've been to as a child. I remembered this arcade as always being one of my favorite places to go as a child, and of course, since the mall was so empty, the arcade was empty too and almost looked run down. In the dream, I felt this sort of sadness on how empty and run down it was, as I always remembered it being a fun and lively place in my childhood. Number 4, a dark hallway. This is a creepy one. Dreams about long, dark hallways you can't see at the end of are common. You feel trapped and scared, not knowing where the hallway leads to or if there's anyone else there with you. It's particularly frightening to those who are scared of the dark. It's said that a long and dark passage indicates insecurity, discontent, nostalgia, and worries. If you find yourself in the passage, this means that you are in trouble. If you're brave enough to go through the passage, this suggests that you will overcome difficulties. To dream that you go through a dark tunnel means that you can accomplish what you wish, but first you will suffer some disappointments. An example of this is, I dreamed that I was in prison with my mother. At one point I lost my mother and there was a fire alarm ringing and I was confused and lost and didn't know where to go because there was no guard. So I walked around and fell on the ground where I was looking straight down at a dark hallway but couldn't move a limb. I was completely paralyzed, and as I was looking down the hallway I saw 2 entities that were an in-between of dog and human. They pointed at me and started going towards me and I tried to scream, but my mouth was paralyzed too. Number 3, waiting in a waiting room. Many people dream of waiting in a waiting room. It could be full of people or empty. It follows with a feeling of doom and there's a yellow tinge to everything. A lot of people don't know what they're waiting for or what the waiting room is for. It could be for a doctor's office, a bank, a work meeting. The possibilities are endless. Waiting can be boring and frustrating, but a dream where you are forced to wait can actually suggest that you need to slow down in a situation where you are too busy to notice that you are unfulfilled. In the dream, it can feel eerie and that you want to leave, but it's telling you to do the opposite in your real life. An example is, basically, there was this laptop said to transfer your consciousness out of your body into some waiting room. It would be for 2 hours, but that crawled along for me. You were transported to this waiting room with other subjects, but couldn't communicate or leave the room. If you tried, a tall, lanky stick creature would follow you and make screeching noises and chase you until you were transported back into the waiting room. The thing was fast, man. I think I got to a point where I was tired of waiting and I could hear it rambling outside in the dark halls. Number 2, doors in the middle of nowhere. Another common dream is seeing doors in the middle of nowhere. No matter if it's in the middle of a field, a body of water, or the middle of a room, it's somewhere where a door shouldn't be. We've all likely heard a number of sayings about doors. Don't close the door on an opportunity, leave the door open for love, when one door shuts, another one opens. Each of these is about being open and available to something. When you dream about an open door or walk walking through a doorway, this could be about moving forward into a new opportunity in your life. It could be about something you are currently going through or something you are looking forward to, something you yearn for. It's said that seeing doors in your dreams relate to a period of transition or change, whether it's positive and full of opportunity or representative of a more fearful, apprehensive time in your life. Doors can represent mystery in our lives, both good and bad. The doors create a barrier and the unknown lies behind the closed door. Until you open the door, you don't know what's behind it. It's a subconscious thing that many people experience, but it's specific to you and what you're going through in life. And number 1, the back rooms. For those of you who don't know, the back rooms is an urban legend. The back rooms are an alternate dimension, but one that is not like many other alternate dimensions in the universe. While others seem to be pocket dimensions that are linked to our own reality, the back rooms runs deep inside our own reality, meaning there is no physical way to enter it. Rather, a person enters the back rooms when in a state of deep despair or during sleep. Ending up in the back rooms is said to be the fate of those who accidentally no-clip through reality and into another dimension. It's described as an endless maze of randomly generated office rooms and other environments. It's characterized by the smell of moist carpet, walls with a monochromatic tone of yellow, and buzzing fluorescent lights. Some may reach the back rooms accidentally on their first attempt, while it may take others hundreds or even thousands of attempts. It's also said that a solitary creature roams the back rooms. It only appears in certain dreams and the person never sees it. They simply hear its cries and immediately turn and run in the opposite direction. These places are weird and scary, and if you're not prepared to enter the back rooms, people tend to try to wake up from this as fast as they can. Number 10, play areas. These are really specific to late 90s and early 2000s babies. The dream takes place in an area that's like a kid's play area. There can be bright colors, toys, and wall art. What most stands out though is the animatronics, animals, and trees with faces that can talk. The best comparison I can think of is to what you can find at Great Wolf Lodge. It's very strange, but it's your subconscious going back into your mind and warping memories you had as a child. It's creepy and nostalgic all in one, but just know you're not alone in dreaming these things. Number 9, grass hills. It's common to dream about being outside with big winding hills that are neon green and a bright blue sky. It's so bright and nice, it's almost unsettling. It can be compared to where the Teletubbies live and almost cartoon looking. Another good example is the landscape home screen from Windows. You know which one I'm talking about. It doesn't quite make sense physically how the hills got there and how they're structured, but there's a sense of familiarness to it. This dream can represent your fear of new responsibilities. You are letting others determine where you go or decide on your goals, and you want to explore and experiment. An example of this type of dream is, I was wandering in my backyard and I was chasing a butterfly. As I looked away from a moment, I realized that I was on a hill and all I could see out were more and more hills. When I looked back at the butterfly, it was gone, and I was alone in this space I couldn't escape from. Number 8, an empty water park / pool. It's common to dream about an empty water park or pool area. It's a confined area of water, whereas dreams about open water, lakes, and oceans are seen as being free and endless possibilities. These places are about being contained. It's usually in a dark room or at nighttime, and the water can be green and murky. This type of dream is an indication of anxiety, stress, and other negative thoughts. It could imply that challenging situations are coming your way as a result of lack of preparation and effort. This dream encourages you to work harder and consider the consequences of your actions. An example is, I keep having a reoccurring dream about some kind of abandoned water park. It's like a giant square pool with massive slides going into it, nothing else. And in these dreams, I'm in one of these slides heading into the mossy, dirty, and stagnant water. It's quite horrifying to say the least, and sometimes the dreams lead onto a feeling of drowning. Yikes.
At number 7 is the Serra da Abobora in the Amazon jungle. Deep within the Amazon jungle lies a spine-chilling spot. It's infamous for a haunting legend involving an ancient ghost named Urutau, I think. This spectral being supposedly lures unsuspecting souls with the mesmerizing melody of a beautiful bird song, but here's the catch. Once drawn near, dreadful things reportedly start to unfold. It's said that those who venture too close to this spirit face frightening and inexplicable occurrences. It's no wonder very few tread into this part of the Amazon. This eerie tale teaches us a sobering lesson that even in the midst of breathtaking places like in the Amazon, there might lurk spine-tingling mysteries best left undisturbed. disturbed. At number 6 is the Petropolis Museum. The Petropolis Museum, also known as the Imperial Museum of Brazil, has an eerie reputation that's tied to its 19th century origins. Constructed within the Grand Palace of Emperor Dom Pedro II, this site is believed to house the ghost of the former emperor himself. Visitors and staff reported sightings of this apparition, claiming to have witnessed his spectral figure moving through the halls, particularly after nightfall. This spectral presence has turned the Petropolis Museum into one of Brazil's most notorious haunted places. Despite its spine-chilling reputation, there remains a curious allure for those brave enough to explore its haunted corridors and experience the unsettling atmosphere firsthand. For those with a strong heart and a penchant for the supernatural, this haunted locale in Brazil might offer an unforgettable, albeit potentially hair-raising experience. At number 5 is the Brasilia City Hall. You know, the Brasilia City Hall might seem like just another government building in Brazil's federal district, but it has been said that this place, sitting right there in Brasilia, has a history that might make you think twice before wandering in alone. Legend has it that this city hall wasn't always a place for politicians and meetings. No, it was once a mortuary where they stored a bunch of bodies before they were laid to rest. And get this, the place burned down at one point, only to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. Now, the creepy stuff doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. People have reported doors slamming shut out of the blue, cabinets making a racket, and windows closing without a soul touching them. Oh, and there's a story about a guy who got locked in a room all by himself while there wasn't a single other person around. Pretty spooky. At number 4 is the road to Petropolis from Rio de Janeiro. As you head down this road from Rio de Janeiro, this road has some spooky stories attached to it. People driving there have claimed to see a strange thing, a blonde lady on the side of the road. I mean, it doesn't sound so strange, but what is odd is that she seems to be signaling for help, pointing at a broken down car and a body lying nearby. Now, when folks stop to assist, they freak out because it's the same woman they just saw moments ago, now lying lifeless by the car. And here's the creepy part. Poof! She and the car vanish into thin air. It's left those drivers feeling pretty shaken up. So if you're planning to take that road, just keep your eyes peeled and stay sharp. You never know what strange things might happen along the way. At number 3 is the Dream Beach. The Dream Beach in Sao Paulo, Itanheim, holds a chilling reputation among haunted spots in Brazil. Legend has it that the lingering spirits of a deceased couple haunt this very shore. Witnesses claim to have glimpsed these apparitions, two spectral figures, their forms decayed, vanishing into thin air without a trace. Even the beach's maintenance crew attests to eerie occurrences, citing unexplained voices and unsettling noises resonating across the deserted expanse in the dead of night. The spectral setting serves as a cautionary tale, warning visitors to proceed with extreme caution, lest they too become entangled in the mysteries that shroud the Dream Beach. And at number 2 is the road to Victoria. Truckers often drive down the road to Victoria in Campos, Rio de Janeiro, but there's something eerie about it. Lots of drivers say they've seen ghosts while on this road. These spooky figures suddenly appear in front of the trucks, causing drivers to panic and hit the brakes to avoid hitting them. Now, what's really weird is that as soon as the trucks stop, these ghostly figures just vanish. People believe they might be the spirits of construction workers who perished while building the road. It's like they're stuck there, tied to the construction work they're used to. That would really suck. Imagine being forced to haunt the place you worked for the rest of your afterlife. Boy, oh boy. It's a pretty scary place, and lots of folks avoid driving there at night. It's the stories about these ghosts that make people think twice about taking that road. And coming in at number 1 is Snake Island in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now, this place technically isn't haunted, but if you ask me, it's definitely the scariest place on this list. This remote island is home to the golden lancehead vipers, whose venomous bite packs a punch that's 5 times stronger than any snake found in Brazil. But they're not the only snakes around, as in fact, here is where the snake density reaches nightmarish proportions. Imagine 1 to 5 snakes lurking in every square meter. Why are they so fearsome? Well, blame it on geography. When Snake Island parted ways with mainland Brazil 11,000 years ago, these snakes were forced to confront evolution by becoming aerial assassins. Yes, that's right, with no terrestrial prey to feast upon, they mastered tree dwelling and developed a venom 5 times more potent than their mainland kin. This lethal venom can eliminate birds instantly and even, get this, melt human flesh. So the Brazilian government wisely bans entry to this reptilian Eden. very wisely. It's a chilling reminder that nature's adaptability can birth monsters even in the most unlikely places.
Kicking off our list at number 10, Room 206. This gives me Stephen King 1408 vibes, and I'm not sure that you're ready. Next time you visit Florida, make sure you read every customer review before you check into a hotel, because some of them might be full of ghosts. That might be a thing that you just might have to deal with. Room 206 at the Super on International Drive, apparently it's super haunted. Guests have reported the bed shaking in the middle of the night, probably terrible for your sleep, or freezing cold air even though the AC is turned off. And worst of all, guests have seen their bed look as though somebody was sleeping there moments before, even though it was perfectly made right before they checked in. Can ghosts squat? Is that legal? We've got a couple of spirit squatters in our room. Gotta move. Number 9, Disney on Ice. Many families love to visit Orlando at this time of year. The theme parks there are spectacular, especially Disney World. I went once when I was younger, but I don't recall ever seeing a real life Walt Disney. I don't know, maybe it has something to do with the fact that he died in 1966. Who knows? But never say never. One of Orlando's oldest tales is that Walt Disney had his body cryogenically frozen after his death. And right now, apparently it's being stored in a bunker underneath the theme park. I mean, that's a bit more creative than being cremated. I'll give him that. It's pretty Walt Disney of him just to freeze himself forever. A grad from the University of Central Florida Film School, Benjamin Lancaster, they actually made a film about this whole idea. It's called The Further Adventures of Walt's Frozen Head. That's a family classic, some would say. Number 8, Scarlett O'Hara's. You're gonna need 2 pieces of ID for this next one, alright? Perhaps the most haunted bar in Florida, located in St. Augustine, Scarlett O'Hara's is haunted by a past owner. Many believe that spirit likes to make itself known to guests. That's always fun. Try and go grab a pint and now you got a ghoul in front of you. That spirit is one of George Coley. Now George sadly bit the bullet one night when he was in his bathtub, so now we have a series of unexplainable events. Plates and glasses will sometimes move across the bar on their own, and the jukebox keeps playing Help Me Rhonda even when it's unplugged. So that's absolutely terrifying. If you want to check it out now, be warned, because it's a full-on tourist attraction at this point. But if you go, you can pose alongside the same bathtub that George Coley died in. Yeah, how lovely is that? Are we going to Disney World? Nah, even better, Scarlett O'Hara's. Yeah, you're gonna love it.
Number 7. Namib Desert. This desert, located along the Atlantic coasts of Angola, Namibia, and South Africa, stretches for more than 1,200 miles and is one of the driest places in the entire world. In some parts, the desert only sees 2 millimeters of water for the entire year, which means that it's basically impossible for anything to survive. And the few living things that do live must do it with the most minimal amount of water possible. Near the coast, this desert consists mostly of giant sand seas that span hundreds of miles. Any living thing that gets left or lost in the areas would never be able to live without a rescue. In less arid areas, there are indigenous people who manage to survive, but for the most part, it is only home to invertebrates like scorpions and other small animals that can live with almost no water. Safe to say, no humans can survive there. Number 6. Val d'Jarvie. In recent decades, the world has seen less and less of people who still manage to remain out of touch with modern day technology and civilization, but the few indigenous people left, the Val d'Jarvie is home to 14 different groups of them. With more than 3,000 individual indigenous people belonging to 14 different tribes, the Brazilian government has prohibited people from entering the area in order to preserve the native people and their traditions. This 32,990 square mile area is bigger than the entire country of Austria. The area, along with its inhabitants, is observed by the government from the air. Now on June 4, 2022, 2 journalists went missing from the Icota River in the Val d'Jarvie region in the extreme west of the Amazon on the border with Peru. On June 14, 2022, their bodies were found, and the Brazilian president said something wicked was done to them, and this is why the area is prohibited. Number 5. Mariana Trench. In the western part of the Pacific Ocean, just east of the Philippines, lies the deepest part of our planet's oceans, the Mariana Trench. Now this massive crescent-shaped scar in the Earth's crust is 1,500 miles long and reaches a depth of 36,000 feet in a valley named Challenger Deep. The trench is so deep that even if you drop the entirety of Mount Everest into it, the tip of the mountain would still be a mile from the surface. Now James Cameron reached the bottom in the submersible vessel Deep Sea Challenger in 2012, with the last successful attempt to search the area floor coming in 2020 when the Chinese submersible Fendejuzi made it all the way down. Now, because of the sheer size and pressure, only 4 expeditions in total have successfully descended. The Mariana Trench is probably one of the most inaccessible locations on the entire planet for mankind, and because of this we may never know if some unknown species have made it their home. Number 4. Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu is a mountain in Pakistan which reaches a staggering 7,453 meters, and to this day the summit has remained unclimbed. In 2003, Bhutan banned all climbing, but some expeditions have been able to obtain permits. In 2014, English mountaineer Pete Thompson attempted to scale the mountain, hoping to reach the summit. Thompson expected to have climbed the final 1,453 meters without ropes, but the presence of hard ice derailed his plan to reach the top, forcing him to turn back at the 6,000 meter mark. Now, prior to Thompson's attempt, a Spanish team was rumored made it all the way to 6,650 meters and remains the highest point on the mountain anyone has reached. Only a handful of attempts have been made to reach the summit, and none have been successful. Machu Picchu is one of the tallest mountains on Earth that remains unclimbed, and it's the tallest one of all that is not off limits due to religious or political prohibitions. Number 3. Cape Melville. The lost world of Cape Melville is an Australian headland that had been cut off from exploration by a surrounding wall made of boulders of granite that are hundreds of feet tall. While they've effectively protected its internal rainforest habitat, it also means that the area is virtually impossible to map. In 2013, Conrad Hoskin from James Cook University and a National Geographic film crew were dropped by helicopter onto the rugged Cape Melville mountain range on Cape York Peninsula earlier this year and were amazed at finding new species of animals. Now, the virtually impassable mountain range is home to millions of black granite boulders the size of cars and houses, piled hundreds of meters high, eroded in places after being thrust up through the earth millions of years ago. Number 2. Point Nemo. A pole of inaccessibility with respect to a geographical creation of inaccessibility marks a location that is the most challenging to reach. In plain terms, it often refers to the most distant point from the coastline. The oceanic pole of inaccessibility, known as Point Nemo, is a place in the ocean that is furthest from land. The area is so remote that with any location more than 400 kilometers, 250 miles from an inhabited area, sometimes the closest human beings are astronauts aboard the International Space Station when it passes overhead. Point Nemo is relatively lifeless. Its location within the South Pacific Gyre blocks nutrients from reaching the area, and being so far from land, it gets little nutrient runoff from coastal waters. I would not want to find myself here. And coming in at number 1 is Gangkar Pinsum. Considering the world's tallest unclimbed mountain by many, Gangkar Pinsum's peak has never been scaled, and it's unlikely that anyone will if the government has anything to say about it. The peaks of Gangkar Pinsum are sacred to the people of Bhutan, and it's considered extremely taboo for anyone to attempt to scale its slopes and peaks. But ordinance and taboos can't stop everyone, and since part of the mountain extends across the Chinese border, the first and only attempt to assail it was led by a Japanese climbing team in 1998. They were stopped short of their goal to explore the uncharted mountain by politically fueled outrage from Bhutan. Since then, no one else has tried to climb it, and I don't blame them.
Number 10. Racetrack Playa, Death Valley. This place is famous for its sailing stones, big rocks that move when no one's looking. Ooh, people know they've moved because they leave a track behind them, but no one has ever seen them move. Oh, mysterious. We should send in Scoob and the gang and figure out what's going on with this one. The winds in this area reach up to 90 miles per hour, so it could be the reason that the rocks are sailing across the ground. But my theory is gnomes that are living inside the rocks and move the rocks around like Flintstone cars so you don't see any footprints. Either way, I'm sure someone could crack the code on this mystery with a GoPro set up and a little bit of time lapse to debunk this whole gnome theory, but please don't, because I want to believe gnomes live in rocks. Number 9. Mount Shasta, Redding, California. Mount Shasta has been a major hub for all sorts of spiritual people, from Buddhist monks to white girls with dreadlocks who have crystals who call themselves bumbleweed. It's said to be one of the world's cosmic power spots. What does that mean? I have no idea. Do I look like someone who knows what a cosmic power spot is? I think it means if you hang out there for a long enough time you get some sort of superpowers or something. The Native Americans believe that it connects to the above spirit world, so I'm guessing it's some sort of heaven-like spot. There's also been reports of UFO sightings and strange energy readings. Maybe it's a huge gas leak and everyone who goes there is just getting super high. Number 8, the Organ Vortex. This one is crazy. It seems like some sort of supernatural anomaly or magnetic energy powerhouse. The Organ Vortex used to be used as a mining facility and now is home to some of the strangest happenings. Many people who enter immediately feel vertigo. There's videos of balls rolling uphill, sticks and brooms that stand on their own when left in places where they should fall over. The people around you will seem to shrink and grow before your very eyes. This sounds like one of those places where I would sit on the outer rim just looking in and eating a sandwich and yelling, "Hey, how's it going in there?" A couple more fun facts about this anomaly is that local Native American tribes call it the Forbidden Place and animals refuse to enter it. Yeah, I think that settles it. Me and Toto are gonna chill on the outside enjoying some expensive cold cuts while you guys dive into the gates of hell.
Number 7. Queen Mary. Queen Mary is a retired British ocean liner that sailed from 1936 to 1967. The city of Long Beach bought the ship to serve as a tourist attraction featuring restaurants, a museum, and a hotel, but claims were made that the ship was haunted. Apparently, there are resident spirits, including Jackie, the little girl who haunts the first-class pool, John Petter, who was crushed by a watertight door, and the cook, who was baked alive by his own kitchen staff during World War II. But arguably the most notorious location on the ship for paranormal activity is stateroom B340. Reports claim someone was knocking on the door in the middle of the night, bathroom lights turned on by themselves, the sink faucet turning off and on its own, and unexplained bathroom doors shutting. Some guests have even reported the covers of their bed being pulled off while asleep and waking to see a dark figure standing at the foot of the bed. Now, why is it so haunted and seems to be cursed? No one really knows. But if you dare to spend a night there, I'm sure you'll run into something truly terrifying.
In our number 6 spot today, we have Porton Down. Porton Down is located in Wiltshire, England. Hopefully I said that right. I never know. And it is a government research facility. This place was first created in 1916 during World War I, and it was initially built as a testing ground for chemical weapons. Since then, however, it has become one of the UK's leading research centres for defence and security. Here's where things get pretty mysterious though. The site is surrounded by high security fencing and is very strictly patrolled by armed guards. Of course, what they are doing inside of this facility is highly classified. Porton Down has been the site of several controversial incidents over the years, including the accidental exposure of military personnel to chemical agents during experiments. The facility has also been accused of testing chemical weapons on unsuspecting civilians in nearby areas. In addition, there have been allegations of unethical animal testing practices and human experiments conducted at the facility. Today, the facility continues to conduct research in areas such as disease control, but many of their operations remain a total mystery.
Number 5. Okigahara Forest. The Okigahara Forest, aka the forest in Japan where people take their lives, is just as terrifying as it is tragic. In front of the entrance of the forest reads, "Think carefully about your children, your family, and your life is a precious gift from your parents." Every year, hundreds of people go here to end their lives, and the number of deaths here can be estimated from the data collected by the local police through the annual campaign. But how many corpses are recovered annually from here is never disclosed. Why people come and end their lives here is still a mystery, but according to an ancient legend, once in Japan when people were unable to maintain themselves, they were left in this forest where they all died of starvation. It's believed that the ghosts of these dead people hunt for a new soul daily. It's also said that the mournful spirits of those who took their own lives still linger in the woods. Folklore claims they are vengeful, dedicated to tormenting visitors and luring those who are sad and lost off the paths. Japanese astrologers also believe that the reason for the deaths in the forest is due to the power of the strange forces living on the trees, which carry out such incidents. So why so many people feel the need to end their lives there will never be known, and it's such a tragedy.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the Raven Rock Mountain Complex. The Raven Rock Mountain Complex is a highly secure military installation located in Pennsylvania in the United States, and it is often referred to as the quote, underground Pentagon. The facility, also known as Site R, was built during the Cold War as a backup command center for the Pentagon and was designed to ensure continuity of government operations in case of a nuclear attack. The complex is located inside of a mountain and has a vast network network of underground tunnels, facilities, and backup power systems to keep the facility running in case of a disaster, and it is even equipped with communication systems, medical facilities, and living quarters to support personnel in the event of an emergency. Basically, it is everything someone would need in the event of the absolute worst case scenario. Although the site was built for the tense times of the Cold War, it is still in use today, but the functions and capabilities of the site remain classified. We know it serves as a critical facility for the US government and military, and that it has been activated as recently as during the 2020 crisis.
Number 3. The Alaska Triangle. You've probably heard of the Bermuda Triangle, but have you ever heard of the Alaska Triangle? Probably not, so let me tell you about it. It's a remote area infamous for alien abductions, Bigfoot sightings, paranormal phenomena, and vanishing airplanes. So yeah, the Alaska Triangle has everything the Bermuda Triangle has, but with more mountains, and it's cold. Like much of Alaska, the Triangle contains some of the most rugged, unforgiving wilderness in North America. It's an impossibly vast expanse of dense forests, craggy mountain peaks, alpine lakes, and large swaths of plain old wilderness. With all of this, it's no shock that people go missing. What is surprising, however, is the sheer number of people who go missing. Add to that the fact that many disappear without a shred of evidence, and bodies, dead or alive, are rarely found. More than 16,000 people, including airplane passengers, hikers, locals, and tourists, have disappeared within the Alaska Triangle since 1988. The rate per 1,000 people is more than twice the national missing persons average, and the rate of people who are never found is even higher. The numbers don't lie, and they imply that something else is going on here other than people merely getting lost in the mountains. So what's really going on here? Seems like no one knows, and I do not want to be the one to find out.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the Dugway Proving Ground. The Dugway Proving Ground is a highly secretive and heavily guarded military installation located in the Great Salt Lake Desert of Utah in the United States. It was established in 1942, and it covers an area of 798,214 acres, making it one of the largest military testing facilities in the entire world. The facility is primarily used for the testing and development of chemical and biological weapons, as well as for research and the development of various defense technologies. The Dugway Proving Ground is surrounded by a fence, and access is heavily restricted. The facility has been the subject of much speculation and conspiracy theories, with rumors of secret experiments and cover-ups. In 1968, an accidental release of the VX nerve agent killed thousands of sheep in the nearby Skull Valley, leading to widespread concern and criticism of the facility. Despite its controversial past, however, the Dugway Proving Ground remains an essential part of the United States national security infrastructure, and its operations continue to be shrouded in secrecy.
And coming in at number 1 is North Korea. Yes, North Korea as a whole is just plain terrifying as well as mysterious. Little is known about the country due to their dictator Kim Jong-un's rule. They have many secret missile bases, and they have some nuclear facilities that are a little sus to say the least. Kim is also very strict with his people, and they can't access the internet, and if they do, it can only be government approved sites. The same goes with film and TV. The citizens are also treated horribly there. There's hardly any food, and everyone is weak and hungry, and it's even been said that the streets are lined with dead bodies. They also have very strict laws that result in people being executed or sent to prison camps, which are one of the worst forms of torment. Based on the guilty by association principle, they are often imprisoned together with the whole family, including children and the elderly, and including any children born in the camp. A former guard likened the prisoners to walking skeletons, dwarfs, and cripples in rags. He estimated that about 30% of prisoners had deformities such as torn off ears, smashed eyes, crooked noses, and faces covered with cuts and scars resulting from beatings and other mistreatments, and that these people were still forced to work. They had to do hard physical labor in agriculture, mining, and inside factories from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., followed by ideological re-education and self-criticism sessions. The prisoners are forced to sleep in a room with 80 to 90 people in 30 square meter flea-infested rooms, are only occasionally allowed to use the toilet, one for about 300 people, and may only take a shower after several months. No one should have to live like that, and it's horrible. And that's the stuff we do know. Kim is so secretive, I fear that we don't know the true horrors of what goes on in North Korea.